Hey everybody, it's Dan and Angela,
Hi, everyone.
and we got our really special guest with us today. His name is Quinn Wright, and he wants to talk about his awakening experience. Coming out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and he seems like he was in there a long time, and he's come a long way out. I got to tell you, he did a show the other day with Jaco. If you go onto his Facebook page, maybe it'll lead you there. He'll talk more about it, but he did a very in-depth, I would even call it a documentary about the Jehovah's Witnesses and the history and how they're entangled with the government, and it's mind-boggling. So, check that out. He'll probably tell you about that. But anyway, Quinn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And
Right.
you two were instrumental and kind of waking me up when I found your video. That was God's way of letting me know it's okay to do research, which I'll get into that a little bit later. But I just want to say
wow.
thank you
And
for
have you
what you
come a
guys
long
do.
way.
Oh, man.
I cannot believe when you were showing those pictures to Jaco, and just people don't know Jaco. He's kind of somebody out there. He's in the big truth movement, and he's bringing on people that want to speak the truth. And he brought on Quinn, and it was really deep. Quinn, you've done some good research. Some of it, a lot of it, I've seen before, but for anybody who hasn't seen the ties of the governing body and the Watchtower with our government and things like that, Quinn is going to lay it out step by step. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. And, it is so complicated, isn't it, Quinn? I mean, it's like when you try to explain it to people, it's so much information that it takes a long time to describe it and to help them to assimilate it. That's a whole nother problem. And then the attention span's an issue. This is a really tough one. Anyway.
But Quinn, so yeah, it is, and Angela's right. It's mind-boggling. But not only have you got detangled, but you've actually, and I want to let you just tell us one. Let's just get started here. So, how long were you in? Were you born in? And just tell us some of those transitions that woke you up and that sort of thing, and just so people can know a little bit about you.
Yeah.
So I was baptized from 2012 was when I got baptized, and I just wrote my disassociation letter this past June.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But I was raised kind of around the organization. When my mom was a witness, she started studying in the early 90s. So I think I was about maybe like 12 years old or so, and she would make me and my brother go to the Kingdom Hall. And at the time, me and my brother really didn't want to be there. And back then it was, I don't even think the Watchtower was in color. I think it was just like black and white. It was so harder back then for children to pay attention to. So me and my brother, we didn't really want anything to do with it. But then she became what they call inactive. So when she started to become inactive, she told me and my brother, okay, well, I'm not going to make you guys go if you don't want to go. So we both decided we didn't want to go. But those images, especially like in a Revelation book of like Armageddon, like those do stick with children. So
Oh, yeah.
I've always in the back of my head. So I stopped going to the Kingdom Hall maybe when I was like 13 or 14, somewhere around that age. But those thoughts were always there. So I believed like it was the truth. So growing up, I've always had that in the back of my head of like, if I don't ever, if I don't find my way back to Jehovah, I'm going to die in Armageddon. So I always had it in the back of my head. But one thing that started my critical thinking, even back then, and I think this is partly why I've been able to wake up, was that I remember I asked my mom about dinosaurs, because in school you learn about dinosaurs and stuff like that. So one problem is, of course, scientists say that dinosaur fossils are millions of years old. But not just that if I remember correctly, I think what the Jehovah's Witnesses say is that the animals used to be at peace with each other. And it wasn't until after the flood that the animals then became like more violent. So when you study dinosaurs, especially as a kid, you look at the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the teeth that it had, he was a predator. So it didn't make sense that like God created everything and everyone was at peace. And it wasn't until the flood, because why were these dinosaurs walking the earth and violent towards one another? So when I asked my mom that question, her response to me was, "Oh, that's just Satan. Like Satan is just made it all up to discredit the Bible." And that really sounds crazy when you think about it, because what she's implying is that like Satan created these dinosaur fossils that don't even exist. Like he made these fake fossils up like Legos or something. And then he planted them all over the earth, deep inside the rock, to make carbon daters think, oh, these are bones. Like that seemed kind of far-fetched that it's all just like Satan. But in my mom's credit, the way the organization works is that maybe some brother from the platform, maybe that's how he explained it. And that's the thing that, sometimes people don't understand, is that people in the congregation, they look at the platform as Mount Sinai. Like when Moses came down from Mount Sinai and he had the word of God on the tablets, like that's how to look at the platform. So some elder could have probably said that from the platform, and maybe that's where my mom got it. I don't know where she got that idea from, but that was what she told me, was like dinosaurs are fake, and it's just Satan's way of discrediting the Bible. So that always stuck with me. Like as a kid, I wasn't really buying that, but somehow I kind of like left that in the back burner, and I kind of like I just forgot about that. So when I was 32 years old, I hit a point of really just wondering, like, like why life is so bad, and just all the suffering and everything. And of course, that's where Jehovah's Witnesses get you when you're in that state of searching. And for some reason, at 32 years old, I just had this thought of like, I don't know where my life is headed. So those teachings came back to me as a kid that, well, I only have one option. Either I accept the truth or I get killed in Armageddon. So then I started thinking like, what, I really need to find my way back to the Kingdom Hall. So at 32 years old, I ended up deciding to reach out for a Bible study. I just called the Kingdom Hall, and a brother came over to my house, and then I started studying. So this was in 2011, and I got baptized in 2012. But one of the first things that kind of woke me up, even when I was studying, or it kind of like stuck with me, like it was like I believed it was the truth, but like these things kept coming up, was when I was told that I had to shave. Like I had a beard, I had a mustache and a beard, and my Bible teacher was saying, what, it's okay to have a mustache but not a beard, and that didn't make any sense. And that was the first time that like I asked about it, and it couldn't be explained from the Bible. Like, what's wrong with having a beard? Jesus had a beard. And where I kind of felt like they gaslight people, and I didn't realize that these were like narcissistic traits back then, because I still believed it was the truth. But now that I look back, it was gaslighting, because I'm studying the Bible Teach book, and in the Bible Teach book, they're showing Jesus with a beard, and the apostles were like, they all have, but they're telling me, no, this is wrong. And it's like, it didn't make any sense.
Oh.
And even when they depict Jesus like currently, and they say, okay, this is Jesus in heaven with the 144,000 currently, he has a beard currently. And all the 144,000, they all have gray beards. So like,
oh my God.
It was, but yeah,
I wonder
it
if
was,
God has a beard. I think they have him out in a beard too, don't they?
Yeah, like Moses.
No beards though.
Yeah, so like that really bothered me. So like I almost stopped studying at this point, because it really bothered me. It just didn't make any sense. But how my Bible teacher kind of twisted, and I know he wasn't doing it on purpose, just because he's brainwashed too, but he twisted it on how like that I was just kind of being selfish by my right to have a beard, and I wasn't being humble, and I could stumble other people. And what they did was, how it was presented to me was that like they didn't flat out say that I absolutely couldn't have a beard, but what they said was that when I wanted to be an unbaptized publisher, they said, well, we want you to join the school first to show you're serious about being an unbaptized publisher. So I said, okay, I want to join the school. Then when they said, well, you can't join the school while you have a beard. So that's how they make you, yeah. So they don't come flat out and say you can't get baptized with a beard, but that's how they set it up. They won't let you advance. So it got to the point where I just said, you know what, like I'll just shave it, because he guilt tripped me of making me feel like I was just being selfish. Like I'm just thinking about my right to have a beard. So I let that one go too. So I ended up getting baptized, and I did believe it was the truth, but I think those two things with the beard and then I think with the dinosaurs, something inside of me always knew that, okay, the governing body is wrong sometimes. Like, it didn't matter what they said. I kind of felt like I'm not going to take what they say 100%. But I still believed it was the truth, if that makes sense. But like, I kind of knew, like, okay, something is not right. But I think the fear tactics is more so what gets you, because with Jehovah's Witnesses, you only have one option. Either you die in Armageddon or you live in this paradise earth. So it's a no-brainer if you believe that. Well, of course I want to live in a paradise. I don't want to get killed. So got baptized and everything. I believed it was the truth. And one of the first things another thing that kind of really made me start to think something was not right was, I was 32 when I got baptized. I was not a virgin. I've been in relationships before. So once I started studying, I cut all that out, like no dating, none of that. So right away, like I knew, like I wanted to get married. So my Bible teacher was saying, well, you're not going to find a good sister unless, you're advancing in the congregation. Now, at the same time, I don't want to marry a bad sister, because I'm also told that you can never divorce. Like, you're with this person forever. So like, of course, I don't want to just marry anybody if I can't divorce them. So I want a good sister. And he's telling me, well, a good sister is not going to date you unless you got all this stuff going on. So I started reaching out. But then as I was reaching out, I then got criticized from my Bible teacher on like questioning my motive, like, oh, am I reaching out just because I want a sister? And part of that was true, but it was like, that's what they're telling me. They're telling me that I can't find a good wife unless I have, if I'm pioneering and doing all this stuff. So then it's like they're gaslighting me by now questioning my motive. Well, I just have a natural desire to want to get married, So I backed off of it and I said, okay, well, I don't want to push too hard, and because now they're questioning my motive. So I just backed off.
Randy.
But then what really was a problem was that there was an annual meeting, and I can't remember which one it was. And it was broadcast live through the congregation. This might have been like 2013 or 14 or something like that. And Anthony Morris made this comment. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he said something like, speaking to sisters, like, well, if you're interested in a brother, is he a ministerial servant? If not, why not? And he presented it like telling sisters that basically, if a brother's not a ministerial servant, he's a loser. Like, don't. So that's when I kind of got upset, because I'm like, okay, they're playing games.
Yeah.
You say I can only find a good sister if I'm doing these things, but then you question my motive for doing those things. But then he says that, a governing body member. So you're basically saying like any brother that doesn't have a title is a loser. And now sisters are going to take that as coming from Mount Sinai, like Moses came out with the 10 Commandments. So I think sisters, like, their heads got big, because now they're looking around like, oh, he's not good enough. He's not a servant. That's what Brother Morris said. So that just like was when I started to get just not trust them. Like, I don't know, but I still like, it's like, oh, it's still the truth. So then the next thing that happened, which was around that same time, was when they changed the Bible to the Gray Bible.
Yeah.
And the reason this affected me was because I just got baptized in 2012. So I was just learning this New World Translation, like learning the scriptures and everything. So when they changed it, it was kind of like, why are they changing it? Like, isn't like, and it was revised in 1984, and now it's 2013. Why does it got to be changed that quick? And then like when they're explaining the changes, I'm like, they're adding to the Bible. They've even admitted to adding certain things. And that really rubbed me the wrong way. That's when I started thinking, like, doesn't it say Revelation don't add or take anything away? And there were clear examples where they added things. So I remember when that happened, I was still using the older Bible, because I really I was distasteful with the other Bible. And I finally got counseled, because they're like, you can't use that anymore. So it's like, now that Bible was banned, in a sense, like you would get counseled. You can't, it's not like propaganda now. Like, you can't use that. You have to use this one. So I eventually gave into that. But those are kind of the things that made me start thinking. What really woke me up was a couple of things. I won't get too far into it, but I started going through this problem where I was being harassed and followed. And so just to give a little bit of backstory, since 2001, they passed something called the Patriot Act. And what that basically means is that they can spy on anyone who they want to. They don't really need a reason, anything they want to come up with. And the belief is that since 9/11, the anti-terrorism unit started booming. They had billions of dollars to fight anti-terrorism, all this stuff. The problem is there's not really any real terrorist activity really in the United States, especially per state. So each state has something called a fusion center, and the fusion centers, they're responsible of putting people on watch lists, things of that nature. So the belief is that, like, for example, I live in a state of Connecticut. So if there's no real like activity in Connecticut, they have to keep finding reasons to put people on watch lists to keep the funding coming in, because if they're getting exactly, yep. So like if they're getting millions of dollars per state, like I'm just going to make up a figure. Say Connecticut gets $100 million a year. If they don't have nobody that they're watching, they're going to lose that funding. So, so belief is that people get wrongfully just like thrown on these lists. And then sometimes it could be revenge, where like maybe if you had a road rage incident with someone who works at the FBI, so if you know someone in that network, you can just get put on a list or something like that. So I can't say that's what's going on, but basically I started being systematically harassed and followed. And so I know that sounds crazy when people hear, oh, you're being followed. Why would they be following you? It sounds paranoid. And that's what these people want others to think, that you're paranoid so that no one will listen to what you're saying. But this is how it relates to me waking up, is that I went to the elders for help. And my wife at the time, I ended up getting married to a Jehovah's Witness. She was able to witness and verify some of the harassment we were going through. It was mainly directed towards me, but she witnessed a few things. So I called the elders over and saying, hey, I don't know what the heck is going on, but like I'm being followed and I'm being stressed out and I think I'm being set up or something like that. And right away, as I was trying to explain to the elders what was going on, they were cutting me off and kind of just saying right away, oh, you're just being paranoid, all this stuff. And so I had a couple meetings with the elders. At one point, I gathered up like evidence, because I've actually been able to document like being harassed and different things that were going on. And my wife was also witnessing some of this stuff. So then I would go back to the elders with evidence and say, well, can you look at this? And they refused to even look at it. And I'm like, well, why can't you even look at it? And their reaction, it just made me think that they don't really have God's spirit. So I wasn't thinking that they were connected with the New World Order and all that stuff. I was just thinking like, okay, well, they claim to be speaking for God. They claim all they have to do is pray for Holy Spirit and God directs them. We're told the elders are an expression of Jehovah's love. So in this unique situation, I'm at least expecting them to just look at what I'm saying. Even if in their head they think, oh, he's crazy, at least pretend you care. Yeah. But they were just like cutting me off. And so I even brought them information on like I said, the fusion centers, the Patriot Act, and then people might have heard of MK Ultra, where they were, harassing people and experimenting on people. So I gathered like factual stuff that they can just verify that these things are actually true. They wouldn't even look at it. So that's where it started, where I just started to think, I don't think they have Jehovah's Spirit, because, they're not even going to look at what I'm saying. So I took it a step further and I said, okay, they're not going to help me. Let me write the branch office. So I wrote the branch office. I wrote to them, this is what's going on. I said, I need help. And one of the reasons I felt I need help was because I cut off all of my friends when I was 32 years old, when I became a witness. They make you feel all your friends, if Jehovah didn't draw them, they're worldly, their bad association cut them off. So I cut all of my friends off. I cut off a friend who I had been friends with since I was 8 years old. You can't buy those type of friendships back. Those are organic friendships. And I cut people off who I grew up with as children. They would have my back, and I cut all these people off because I'm thinking I'm going to gain 100 times more. So now I'm wanting to kind of cash in on that, like, hey, I need help now. And no one wanted to help me. Nobody wanted to listen to me. So like, I wrote the branch office like, hey, I need help. I'm being harassed. I have evidence. The elders won't even look at it. I just need someone to take me seriously. So I kind of documented what was going on. And then I wrote them also the factual evidence about the fusion centers, the patriarch, all that stuff. And, I wrote the branch office, and I won't get into all the details, but basically they then deleted me as a ministerial servant because I wrote the branch office. I don't know the exact story behind it, but I think it had something to do with I think I might have made the elders look bad by writing the branch, or maybe they said, oh, he's crazy. I don't know what the problem was, but they deleted me as a ministerial servant with no warning.
Wow.
And from what I understand is that they're supposed to, there's a scripture that says, oh, before person takes a false step, try to adjust them. So if they felt like I was doing something wrong, like I was pushing this thing, they could have set me down and said, hey, if you keep going this direction, your qualifications may be questioned, but it was like a complete blindside. And I don't care about the privilege. Like, some people in the organization, they're like, oh, don't worry, you can reach out again. You can, but it wasn't about that. As the fact of, okay, I come to you for help and you delete me and you say it's from Jehovah. So one thing that I caught on too that didn't make any sense was when they deleted me, they said I can appeal it if I want to. And then I also realized that when people are disfellowship, they can appeal that too. And then a light bulb went off and said, wait a minute.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So if you can appeal these decisions, how is it from God? Because by default, if you're saying that this fellowshipping is from God, but you have an appeal process set up, you're already acknowledging it's not from God. Otherwise, there would be no appeal process.
Great point.
Very
So,
I'll ask you one question real quick.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what harassment's like? Or, a lot of people will be sitting there going, well, you didn't really say how they were hassling them. Were they following you in a car close?
Mm-hmm.
Were they on foot? Were they knocking on your door in the middle of the night? Could you just tell us a little bit about
what that
looked like so people could see that it's real?
Yeah, good idea.
So one of the things that they specifically, when people are in a situation, they specifically tailor it to you. So whatever they think is going to get under your skin, they'll use. So I'm a truck driver for a living, and what I was noticing is that I was being overtly followed all day long. So a car would get behind me, put their high beams on, follow me for maybe 45 minutes when it first started. And then they would get off the exit. And as you're getting off the exit, another car will come on the on-ramp and pick up right behind where that car was at. And I knew I was being followed because with a big tractor trailer, if you have a heavy load and you're going, say, up an incline, you'll drop from, say, 65 miles per hour to 45. And sometimes trucks will put their flashers on to kind of let cars know, hey, slow moving vehicle. Cars always go around you. But these particular cars that I already felt were following me, they would stay with me the whole time. Even when I would drop my speed down, they would stay with me. They wouldn't let up.
That's so obvious.
Yeah. And then things I would go outside and there would be a car just sitting in front of my house with the high beams on. Then they'd follow me as I pull out of my driveway, stuff it's not a real investigation, because in a real investigation, if you're really putting someone under surveillance because you really think they're doing something, you don't want them to have any idea they're being followed in a real investigation.
Right.
So in this, whatever's going on, it's they're harassing you. So it's pretty much bogus, whatever it is you're doing, because otherwise you don't want the person to know. And one more thing I want to mention, there's a lot of harassing stuff, but there's a period of time where me and my wife would leave together and we would come back home and things would be moved around in our house.
Ooh.
Nothing would be stolen really. And it was just
that's
a way to harass you.
Head. It's a mess with your head.
Yeah. So I'll just give you an example. Say there's a chair that's in your living room and you come home and a chair is next to your back door. It's so simple, but I didn't put, why is the chair in front of the back door?
Right.
You can't report it because then you're made to look schizophrenic or crazy. Right. That's what they want. So if I call the police and say, hey, somebody broke into my house. Oh, what did they steal? They didn't steal anything. Well, how do you know they broke in? Well, they took my chair and they put it in front of the back door. you look crazy. You look like, oh, you're just being forgetful. Something's wrong.
Yes.
And I also heard from doing research that like they try to mimic things like schizophrenia. So they do things to mimic that so that you sound like you're just schizophrenic or paranoid when you try to report it. So it's designed to harass you where you can't really prove it.
Yeah, and not only that, but they could possibly find ways to get you in a mental ward.
Yeah.
Eventually, because you're acting schizophrenic, right?
And I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, because Dan and I've interviewed ladies who have been harassed and taken by by the deep state, by bad guys, to the mental wards when they were making up these reasons they were causing them. So I can't get into that, but anyway, it's
and then on top of that, like the belief too is that once they get you there, they can experiment on you because nobody's going to believe you. So all types of stuff. So that's kind of part of the plan too. But so the thing is, I know that like the average Jehovah's Witness, they're gonna like, oh, why would the government do that? Why would these things be happening? So I understand that, but I was taught that the elders are from Jehovah. They're appointed by Jehovah's Holy Spirit. So I'm expecting that the Jehovah's going to move the elders just to at least look into what I'm saying. So that's what made me really start to question. I don't think they have God's Spirit as they say they have God's Spirit. So then like at the same time, and I'll be careful how I word things, but at the same time as I'm going through this stuff, like, so I start to look at this conspiracy type of stuff because this whole targeting thing, it is a conspiracy. Like that's where the information is at. If you look up on Google, they're going to say, oh, they're just crazy paranoid. Like, it's a conspiracy. So as I'm looking into this stuff, I'm also learning things about like, the pandemic and stuff like that. So when the governing body started to heavily push medical advice, and the way they're pushing it was like the same way that like these government organizations were pushing things. And like, I could see like the similarity. Like I could just see that like, it seems like the Watchtower has an agenda too, with pushing this medical stuff. So my wife worked in the hospital and she was basically told, blah, blah, blah. If you don't do so and so, you're going to lose your job. So I told my wife, I said, well, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to. Don't worry. We can afford just for me to work. Don't worry about your job. Because I was sharing with her stuff I was learning. So she was starting to just see like what I was saying. So she didn't want to take that medical advice either. But what happened was there was one governing body update, and look this up for anyone listening who wants to know what I'm talking about. I believe it's July. The 2001 July broadcast with Brother Splain. Now, if it's not Brother Splain, then look at like June or the next one, but it's the one with Brother Splain. I think it's July 2001, but it's Brother Splain. And the way he was pushing it, he was basically kind of saying like, this medical stuff is from Jehovah. And he said like, well, Jehovah would never allow the Bethel family to do anything dangerous. So you can trust us. You can trust because Jehovah wouldn't allow that. And then he says like, he twisted a scripture that talked about like being in the land of the living. And he's like, well, if you want to be in the land of the living, blah, blah, you need to basically. So he was so forceful with pushing that my wife felt like, okay, Jehovah's telling us to do it. So she didn't want to do, but she's like, well, the governing body. So she went and did what she did. And when she came home, she was bawling. She was crying. She was crying kind of like a baby. And she was crying like she really didn't want to take it. I think once she did it, it was like her soul was crying out because she really didn't want to do it. But the governing body, that is Jehovah speaking, so I think she was conflicted, but like the way she was crying, and I felt so bad, and I just thought that can't be from God. Like it can't be from God. And that's when I really was like, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. And then when it came to the whole harassment thing, other brothers and sisters in the congregation, I won't get into detail, but it seemed like they started taking part in their surveillance. Like it's almost like when you're in this program, like people in your neighborhood, sometimes the neighbors, sometimes you go to store. It's kind of like it looks like they get a notification on their phone that like someone from the watch list is, and it's like, it seems like they're always like, they get like a message on their phone, like a notification. And then sometimes it'll look like they take a picture of you and then upload it. I know it sounds bizarre, but like it's a certain behavior. And I started noticing other people in the congregation that started to act just like the people that were following me. And I started to really feel like some of them might be involved. And the thing is that Jehovah's Witnesses are gullible. So if I'm on some sort of list and the, you know, whoever's behind it, FBI, CIA, some private contractor, yeah, if they went up to another witness and said, hey, brother Wright, you know, we're investigating, they would probably believe it because they're very gullible.
Right.
They don't understand that people lie. Like their mindset would be, well, why would they make that up? It must be true. Like it's a very naive mindset.
Yeah.
So
True.
I started to kind of not trust some of the people in the congregation. And then I started pushing the whole like medical stuff. So this is when I really woke up, is like, I was watching a documentary on Denver Airport. And Denver Airport has all this like Freemason, Illuminati, all this secret society stuff. And they have these big murals, these paintings. And when I looked at these paintings, I just thought it looks just like what we depict in the Paradise Earth. There's these pictures that show like all these races, all these different nationalities. You have animals in the background. It looks like a paradise picture. So I just had this thought like, that looks like they're depicting the same thing. Like, why are those pictures at Denver Airport and it's connected with all this like all this other stuff? And I just really started to think like, that's odd. And then for some reason, a light bulb went off, like New World Translation, New World Airport, you know, like, I'm sorry, New World Order. And then they have the New World Airport. And I just started thinking New World, like, and then I just started thinking like the New World Order, new system, like, is it the same thing? So I started to think, but I'm like, well, I can't do research because, you know, I'm going to die. Like God's going to kill me. I'm an apostate if so I had that brainwashing of you're not allowed to do research outside of Watchtower Library. So like thinking like, well, how can I look this up? I don't want to, you know, and then I'm worried about my wife. I don't want her to catch me typing in something, you know. So then I'm like, well, you know what? Let me find out from the organization why they call their Bible the New World Translation, because they don't call it a Bible, even though like they physically say the Bible. The book is called a New World Translation. It doesn't say Holy Bible or anything like that. So I'm like, why did they decide they're not going to call it the Holy Bible like everybody? Like, why would, that's an odd term, like New World, like, so there must be a reason why they named it that. Everything that has a name, there's a reason for it. So why did they decide we're not going to call this a Bible? We're going to call it the New World Translation. So I looked up on a Watchtower online library and couldn't find anything, like no article on why they called it that. So then I thought, well, Faith in Action, their homemade documentary, Faith in Action, it shows in that documentary when they came out with the New World Translation. And back then it was green. It shows the part where they released that at a convention. So I thought, okay, maybe Faith in Action explains when they made their Bible, why they just chose that New World Order name. So I watched Faith in Action because it's approved by the organization, right? I'm not an apostate because I'm looking up, you know, their documentary, and I'm looking for them to answer that question for me. Why do you call it New World Translation? So as I'm watching it, all-seeing eye impairment pops up in the background of a part of that documentary. And I know what these signs are. Like I've looked into like some of this New World Order conspiracy stuff before I became a witness. So I'm very aware of the all-seeing eye. And for anyone that doesn't know that, if you have a dollar bill, look on a dollar bill, it's right on the back. And it says like New World Order in Latin or something like on it. So right when I seen that, and this is on their website, it literally felt like I got stabbed in the heart and a knife was stuck in my heart. Like the stinging was like, it didn't go away. And it's like, it was kind of like my soul was being penetrated. And like,
I just want to say something there real quick. The same thing happened to me. And it was after I left the witnesses.
It was the same kind of thing.
I went into this church and this guy stood up, and it had to do with the Bible.
Yeah.
And he was a really big guy, very aggressive. and he stood out over the people and he put his foot up on a stand. He goes, "Lest you have this Bible right here."
This
And
particular,
he throws it down.
it was like a particular translation.
And he
Yeah.
says, "I dare to say you don't have a relationship with God." And you know what happened? It felt like a spear went right through here, like Jesus, like a spear went through. And I went, oh, and I had problems for a long time, but it felt like I got stabbed in
A
it.
very long time. You had trouble.
I had a long time. I had a miracle healing at Ireland's conference. But anyway, go ahead. I just wanted to tell you the same thing happened to me, Quinn.
And interesting that it has to do with the Bible too.
Yeah, and it was the heart. It
Yeah,
was the heart area right below the
It must
heart.
really
Yeah.
matter to God.
I
know?
took a
Yeah.
step.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, so at that point, it was so shocking. I was afraid to go down that rabbit hole because I'm like, oh my God, like, could they really be connected? And we were really like, it's one thing to feel like, okay, they're teaching false doctrine, they're wrong, but if they're connected with all that stuff, that means they're deliberately misleading people. It's not the fact that they're just lost sheep.
There you go.
So I literally was like, I was afraid to look any further. And then like, I kind of blocked it out. Like I was afraid to go down that road.
Yeah.
But then like it stuck with me. Like I couldn't get it out of my head that like, I need to know, I need to look into the stuff. So then there was that battle of, but I can't because Jehovah's going to kill me. All right. Like,
Right.
and then the scripture popped up where, and I don't know how it is in like a real Bible, but in the Bible, the New World Order Bible, I like to call it, it's worded where it says how Paul commended the Thessalonians because they carefully examined, the scriptures to see if they were true.
Right.
So
Brilliant.
Paul didn't, exactly. So Paul didn't say, how dare you question me? I'm an anointed. I wrote he commended them, yeah. And if they actually examine the actual scriptures, I can't examine a Watchtower. What would the Thessalonians would have done if Paul said, here's an Awake magazine? You tell me they wouldn't have dissected that whole book?
Right.
Of course they would have looked into it.
And said that they were doing it to make sure that those things were true. And that they would, it's like
Yes.
according that God was guiding and directing them just to ascertain whether that thing that was being said was true. And they studied carefully to be sure. So they didn't just take every kind of thing that came along and accept it. They studied and proved it. And so we're all to do that. Every one of us responsible to do that as good Bereans.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, Angela, like that's like so powerful of a point, because it's like, wouldn't God be happy that we want to make sure that we're serving him correctly? Like if we're being lied to, that like we need to make sure that it's true. Like it's because we have that love for God that we want to make sure that.
Right.
So why is God going to kill me? Or did I just want to double check because something doesn't sound right? So that scripture popped in my mind of like, why is that recorded in the Bible? Is that recorded in the Bible to tell us that we cannot examine anything? Or is that in the Bible to let us know like, hey,
We
we're to
must.
be commended? Yeah. So I felt like I can look. But this is where like the brainwashing kicked in, because the brainwashing is still telling me it's apostate, it's satanic. I'm going to die in Armageddon. Like, don't you dare. I'm Judas Iscariot if I low. So I still was like, I couldn't bring myself to look up so-called apostate stuff. I couldn't bring myself to do it. But that scripture is like, go ahead. You can. So what happened was I was watching a video on someone else's channel that your daughter, Ireland, was on. And at the end of the video, Ireland says, oh, and by the way, check out my YouTube channel. Completely unrelated issue. So I just thought, okay, she seems cool, Yeah, let me just check it out. Let's see what kind of material she has, And I knew that she was like into like spiritual concepts that Jehovah's Witnesses would say are satanic. But at this point, I already knew that like I didn't trust the witnesses anymore. So like I already kind of could see through that. Like I'll watch someone's spirituality stuff. Like I didn't look at that as apostate. So I just checked out her channel, no big deal. And right as I'm scrolling down, this video popped up. Like it was, I forget what the title of it was, but something like XJW Dan Clark, blah, blah, blah. And that was, I'm telling you, it was a sign from God, because I was too afraid to bring myself to go on my search bar and type in XJW or Jehovah's Witness lying or anything like that. I was having a problem with that. Even though the scripture about Paul and the Thessalonians like is telling me I can look, the brainwashing was still not letting me do it. So I couldn't bring myself to deliberately look. So when that video popped up on Ireland's channel, and it wasn't in my algorithms, it wasn't something I typed in, it wasn't something my wife was going to find, it was in front of my face, XJW Dan Clark. That's when I felt like, okay, this is what I needed, because I didn't look for this information. The video popped up. God's telling me I can look at this.
Was I screaming or was I mellow?
Did you listen to anything?
No, it was a good interview. Like you got into basically like your awakening and like the 1975 thing. And the fact you lived through that, it was an eye-opener for me, because I only heard their distorted version of 1975. Oh, we never said that, you know.
Yeah.
So when I heard you explain as living through that and just hearing your story, that's when I said, I'm allowed to look. I'm a grown man, right? I'm not a 14-year-old where the parents say, oh, it's a rated R movie, close your eyes, you can't look, you can't listen. I'm a grown man.
Right.
If it's the truth, what am I going to find? It's kind of like if there's a car that says for sale on it and you go to check it out and you're looking at it, then you pop the hood and the owner says, oh, no, don't do that. It's dangerous. Just take my word for it. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. It runs perfectly. What are you going to think? Like, well, if it runs as good as you say you are, then what's the big deal if I pop the hood? If I pop the hood, I'm not going to see anything but what you're telling me, right? Unless you're hiding something, how is it dangerous for me to look? Makes no sense. So like, you know, once I watched your video, that's when I felt like the brainwashing was like kicked out, where I could reason like this. I could be like, if it's the truth, then what am I going to find? And then I thought, like, how could the word of a so-called apostate be stronger than God's word? If the elders are from God, all the talks are God's spirit, the conventions are of spiritual food. We're flooded with all this spiritual food, 3 meetings a week, meetings for still.
You're invincible. Nothing should phase you.
How could watching a 15-minute so-called apostate YouTube video be dangerous if all that stuff is from God? That would mean that the word of a so-called apostate is stronger than the word of God and his Holy Spirit. It doesn't make any sense. So once I said, I'm going to look, I could then see this is why they don't want you looking, because it's so obvious that like it can't be denied. Like it's not apostate anything, it's facts. You know, a lot of so-called apostate stuff is their own literature, things that they've tried to delete from their history. So once I started to look, it was so clear that we were being lied to. And the one that did it for me the most was, and this goes back to the government harassment type of stuff, is that they have things direct to energy weapons. I won't say much about it, but for anyone who knows what I mean when I say Building 7, well, Building 7, that type of stuff is done with directed energy weapons, like, you know, stuff like that. And people who are sometimes put in these programs, these watch lists, sometimes they're experimented on. That's the whole point. So they may experiment with directed energy, that type of stuff, frequency weapons. Now, while that may sound science fiction, this is actually like patented stuff that exists. Like, for example, some may know it as called crowd control weapons, where they can send a frequency into a crowd, which is a microwave that will radiate the crowd and burn them where they disperse right away. It's a real thing. They call it a crowd control weapon. But
Yeah.
these are...
Isn't it also sometimes even a noise that they can't handle and they have to get out?
Probably
both too. Yeah, it's both.
To do that, both of those same things.
Yeah. But these are real things, and what people don't understand is that they experiment with some of these cruel things on people. That's what MK Ultra was about, experimentation. So when MK Ultra got exposed and I had to cover it up, what they've decided to do is say, well, you know what? The only way we can justify still running these type of experiments is by placing people in these watch list programs and saying, oh, they're terrorists, they're bad people. So now the people running those programs will do it out of conscience because they think, oh, we don't care if we're rating this person. They're just a terrorist, you know, or whatever they make up. They sometimes use pedophile. Like they'll just make up whatever's going to get people to not be remorseful when they're harassing and experimenting on these people. They make stuff up and they do it under the guise of, oh, these people have to be watched. They're terrorists. But anyway, this is how it relates to Watchtower, is that so when I heard about the Henrietta Riley Trust Fund or something like that, Henrietta Riley, I was told, and I heard this online, that it's a secret trust fund that the organization uses to invest our donation money and all these things that they claim Jehovah hates. So I heard that like they got investments in Walt Disney and all this stuff that they claim that, yeah.
Some company or tobacco company.
Yeah, so like when I heard it, to me, that's like, okay, that's the smoking gun. Like I remember when I first became a witness, there was a job that I applied for where all that they did was they made parts that go on planes, and these planes just happen to be military. They weren't making missiles or anything like that. It just happened to be a part, like some mechanical part that goes on like a plane or a helicopter, but it just happened to be military helicopters and airplanes. And I was told I can't take that job because, it has to do with the military. Okay, can't take the job. Then I found out they're investing in the military and all these type of things. So when I first heard about this trust fund, to me, that was just like I already knew it was a false religion that was becoming clear to me, but I'm like, I have to see it for myself. I can't just take somebody's word for it. It's like, I need to see myself. Is this really true? So as I'm praying about it, and I'm like, God, I was afraid to use the name Jehovah because you know what? I don't know what God's name is. I'm not being disrespectful. I don't know. So I'm like, God, if this is true, please, I need to find this information. This is what I need to see with my own eyes to know for certainty what Watchtower is about. So I came across this other YouTuber. The video was heavily shadow banned, but somehow I came across this video through Brave search, not Google or Bing. It was another search engine, and this video came up with this former Jehovah's Witness that had the same exact question that I had on this Henrietta Trust Fund. He had the same question of, okay, I need to see it for myself. How do I know it's real? Because somebody could make a fake tax document. Like, it's possible. Not likely someone's going to go through the trouble of making fake W-2s and all that stuff, and that would be very criminal to do that. But I want to know this for a fact. So this person had the same question I had, and he walked through how to do it. So he gave a EIN number, and he said you can go to the IRS website under like, and actually, could I screen share with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can you, I just need your permission to screen share.
Yeah, where do we do that at? Show captions.
Show captions, probably.
Hey, Ireland.
Yeah, it's show captions. I know it.
Okay.
Maybe if you go to screen share yourself, maybe it'll give you the option to grant me permission.
Share screen.
Okay.
Okay, do you have the option of?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, well, can I share though? No, I still am not able to share myself.
Okay.
Or do you have a notification that I'm asking permission?
I don't see one. Let me see. How do I do this?
Stop sharing. Maybe stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe stop sharing. I'm trying to think, what would it be under?
Oh, go to more.
Oh, more. Okay, let's go down to more. Nope.
Go to whiteboard. That arrow.
No.
No.
Ireland would know.
Share. Okay, hold on. I'll go there.
Yep.
Yeah. I hate to.
Yeah, it would just be 1 second here.
Yep. Yeah, but I really want to show this because I think anyone watching this too, like,
I think it's important to so people can see. It just validates, because like you say, that we're all so full of questions. They've taught us not to trust anything, or anyone, and so when you actually see it.
The thing about it, and that's what I'll show when I can screen share, is that when I was looking through all the companies that they're investing in and they're profiting out of, like, for example, how can you tell somebody they can get this fellowship for smoking a cigarette, but then you're taking donation money and investing in tobacco companies, and if they sell a lot of cigarettes, you're profiting off of how many cigarettes. So it's like they're just lying to us. There's no
Right.
excuse for that.
Right.
But the one that really got me, which is why I brought up like the directed energy weapons and crowd control, is that there's a company called Lockheed Martin that's a military contractor, and they make directed energy frequency weapons. And
Oh,
if you go
wow.
right on their website,
Wow.
it's
Wow.
not even hidden. Go to lockheedmartin.com and it says what we do. And there's a section that flat out says directed energy weapons, frequency weapons.
Wow.
They make that kind of stuff. So
Oh
when
my-
I seen Lockheed Martin as one of the companies that they have stock in, that's what did it for me. Because I'm on a receiving end, or was on a receiving end, of some of the harassment and that type of stuff. And it's like, so you mean to tell me my donation money is also being used to fund companies like that are making these type of weapons? And God hates war so much, he hates all these things.
Right. And it's also the world. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Entangling themselves with the world, with your money,
Yeah.
your hard-earned money. Because like, look, they can take the different buildings that you guys have built, and they can get loans on those buildings, and then
Yeah.
fund these things. The taking the donations from the publications and different donations, that's even helpful. I mean, there's many ways that they get their money from. So yeah, it's disturbing.
And they tell us, at least when I came in, they emphasize the fact that we know this is God's organization because look, the whole thing is done on nothing but voluntary donations in God's spirit.
Yeah.
And they even tell us, like, it'll say sometimes during like the kingdom ministry, or now they call it the workbook, bring your Bible student to Bethel so they can see how everything is done with God's spirit, right? So they, as a selling point, they manipulate you to show, like, we know this is God's organization because look, how could all this be done on nothing but donations in God's spirit? Why does God need to invest in the things that he hates? Why does God need to invest in Satan's companies to fund his organization? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, and that's a good point, because my uncle Angela was there when my mom died, and my uncle goes, where does our money come from, Dan?
Yeah.
How does Jehovah bring in our money? Where do we get it? We don't ask for money, Dan. And when we were in, they didn't ask for money. Back when I was in, they didn't ask for money.
Yeah.
It was just go to, there's a donation thing in the back, and there was no, what do you have in your bank? Give us your SUV, so my uncle's, used that against me in reasoning with me. He says, well, Jehovah's providing. They had no idea it's into all this tobacco and building, selling, and all this stuff,
It's horribly corrupt.
Yeah. And so once I got enough, like once I felt like that, that's when I was no longer afraid. I'm like, I don't care if the elders find out what I'm looking at. I was not afraid anymore. So before I even talked to my wife, because my wife was raised a Jehovah's Witness, she was like very indoctrinated. So I went to this older sister who believes in conspiracies. So when I started being harassed and stuff, she knew about things such as MK Ultra. So she was someone who I could confide in with this kind of stuff. So when I first started to find things about the Watchtower, I thought, well, because she's into conspiracies, and she also didn't trust the medical advice either. She started to have a little bit of not trust with the governing body with that. So I went to her in private, someone who I thought I could trust with some of these questions. One of them being like the United Nations connection.
Yeah.
And all that I did was I asked her, and I said, did you know we're part of United Nations? She flipped out.
Oh,
first, she was in denial, like, oh no, that's not true, blah, blah. And I'm like, I found it on United Nations website, the Henrietta Trust Fund, like I found out on IRS website. Like I'm telling her, no, it's not some apostate stuff. These are official, like legal documents, public online. Unless, oh, go ahead.
No, what is the Henrietta Trust? What do they do again?
So basically, this is just my definition of it, that it's set up as a front organization. It's this trust fund with the Watchtower's own money that is set up, invested in all these stocks. So it is a way that they can invest in all of these things in secret. So
It's kind of like an LLC with all the other businesses
Yeah, so,
behind it.
so when you guys try to investigate their financials, you will not see it
You'll
because
just
it's
see
in a
that.
whole separate, got it.
Yeah.
I see, they hide under that.
Yeah, but what I can show in a tax document is that it shows that like the money's being paid to the Watchtower, that they own a stock. So it's in the information, but you can't find it.
She's gonna see if she can set it up. There she is.
Okay, hi.
Hey, yeah, you're a celebrity. Your name came up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You were the link to me finding Dan that allowed me to start to question things.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah,
so you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay. So this is what I want to show that I found, and anyone can look this up. So you go to the IRS website. It's not an apostate website. The apostates didn't hack into the IRS database and make stuff up. IRS.gov. And you want to search tax exempt organization search. So you could go to maybe Google and just type in IRS tax exemption organization search. However, it brings you here, but this is where you want to get to, this screen. And where it says search term, right here is the EIN number. And I'm going to read it in case the screen is unclear. So it's 38-604-3103. That's the EIN number. So if you type that in, and these are just pre-recorded screenshots I already took. It's going to bring you here, and you're going to see in the middle, Henrietta Riley Trust Fund. This is it right here. This is their secret trust fund. And if you click on this, it's going to show the IRS only keeps like, I think the last 7 years, but it's going to show like the last 7 years of the 990 forms that the Watchtower or through this trust fund, they still have to file, even though it's tax exempt, they still got to show their earnings. And so that's what you do. Go to irs.gov, get to this section, tax exempt organization, type in that EIN number in a search term, and then when Henry Riley Trust comes up, click on that. So here's one of the forms. So this one is for the tax year 2014. Hold on. Let me just make it bigger.
Do you have to have that EIN number to find this?
Yeah, that's how it's hidden. So you just type in that EIN number.
How did you manage to get a hold of that?
So another YouTuber came across the same dilemma I had of they wanted to verify that this is true and somebody didn't just make it up. So he said he found the EIN number just searching it online, that it's out there because it's public. Because it's a non-tax exempt organization, they have to make this information public.
Gotcha.
But this is for 2014, and it says name of foundation, Riley Henrietta Trust. But when you scroll down, because again, it's a front organization, this is what they're doing to hide it from the publishers. But if you go down, and you can check anyone. This is 2014. And let's see, where's it at?
That's even older than 7 years. Interesting.
Yeah, I'll show you how I got this one in a minute. But as you see right here, paid during the year, Watchtower Bible Tract Society, Columbia Heights, Brooklyn, New York. It's them. They're the ones behind it. And this, I guess, is the amount they made this year, which may not seem like a lot, but that's what they profited.
Scroll down just a little
Can you
bit.
scroll it down because you're picking
The other way.
There it
Right
goes.
there. Yeah.
696. Is that 1,000? Go up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's
okay, 696, 897.
Yeah, but like that's just what they maybe made. They profited that particular year. You know, sometimes you lose money, sometimes you don't always make money.
Yeah,
but,
purpose of grant was general support.
and let me just show you some of the questionable stocks they have. So Phillips,
Okay.
that's a tobacco company.
Phillips.
And a lot of these are questionable for Jehovah's Witnesses, but I'm just gonna I just highlighted the ones that stood out to me as, you know, problematic. Walt Disney. So I don't know about you guys, but in a congregation I was in, I was told, oh, Walt Disney is demonic. They make spiritistic, like,
Right.
so we're told, oh, Walt Disney is demonic, and you're investing in Walt Disney.
Right. Right.
And Facebook, I mean, here's the problem with Facebook is they tell us, oh, social media is bad, like don't, you know, be involved like too heavily in it. But they're, you know, they got stock in Facebook. That's not like criminal, but it's like, you know, they're telling us to stay
Part
away
of the
from
world, no part of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Johnson and Johnson. We know what they make, you know, as far as medical treatment.
Yeah.
My only problem with Monster beverages, as far as Jehovah's Witnesses, is that the sign on Monster drink is 666 in like Hebrew or something like that.
Oh,
That's what those 3 lines meant. So
Right.
Pure
I don't
caffeine
know.
too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Pure
Yeah.
caffeine that ruins your health.
And some of these are on here twice. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I see what you mean,
Uh,
like the Verizon one.
Oh,
Pfizer.
Yeah,
Pfizer.
Microsoft.
Pfizer. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So that there's Pfizer's another reason they may also be pushing certain things when they got stock in some of this stuff.
Yes, absolutely. There's Facebook again.
And a lot of these I'm sure are very corrupt, but I just don't know what all these companies are, some of them. But Thermo Fisher Scientific, they actually are involved with making the, you know what, that they were pushing.
Oh,
They're one of the companies that made it. But
naked.
this is the one.
Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, Lockheed Martin. They're a military contractor.
Wow.
They make weapons that torture people and do things like Building 7.
Interesting.
And
Boeing. That's
yeah,
Apple.
yeah, that too. And Apple, yeah. So do you ever wonder why, like, you watch the governing body updates, you notice they always have their iPads where you can see they're using Apple, and I fell for that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Honeywell's your home security. Ooh.
Yeah.
Google,
Well,
Yahoo.
Yeah. And how does Jehovah feel about his donations being funded for Monsanto? You know, this destroying crops and stuff like that. You know, I didn't know that Jehovah has, you know, I don't know. I didn't know Jehovah needed Monsanto to fund his spirit directed organization.
Wow, interesting. Lionsgate Entertainment. Wait,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's, I mean, worldly, right? Making movies.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we can't watch R-rated movies, no, but we can fund R-rated movies apparently. So I want to show one more thing. So the IRS only is going to give you like the last 7 years, but this website, and I want to show first that you can find it on the IRS website so everybody knows like it's legit, but this website is an independent website, ProPublica, and they just keep track of all this tax stuff. So on this website, it goes all the way back to 2001. This is where you can find like the older documents, like the one that I showed. And it kind of makes it easy for you. So like this year, it's showing in 2021 that, okay, what they made was $240,000 or $274,000 that particular year. And again, it's not so much how much they're making, it's the principle of what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is just one little aspect of their company. The assets are hidden all over the place.
Yeah.
Truth.
So on this website, you don't need the IEN number. Just type in Henrietta Trust Fund and you can find it. But for those, if you're trying to wake a Jehovah's Witness up, I would recommend go to the IRS website and show it to them from there, because they can't complain. I mean, they can't deny that. And right here, I'm going to show how this website goes all the way back to 2001. So they've been doing this shady stuff since 2001. I mean, this is the tax filing there for 2002, but it's for 2001. So, and I remember like when I first tried to explain this, I'm being told it's an apostate lie. It's like, how can you, and I'm trying to say, look at the evidence, they won't even look. But that is basically, once I seen Lockheed Martin, for me personally, that did it for me. Like, nope, they're full of it. They're false religion. Their funding is based on the things they claim Jehovah hates. And you can't say that's an apostate website, and I remember like I talked to one elder about that, and he tried to say, oh, it's just another company using the name Watchtower. An example he gave was how like you could see a church that says the name of Jehovah on it, and it doesn't mean that church is affiliated with Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's an example he gave, saying, well, just because the tax document says Watchtower, it could be some other organization. But if you look at the research, like I brought up on the 990 forms, it says Brooklyn Heights, like it shows their address. But that's the problem. They don't look at the evidence. They say it's a lie because they're brainwashed that you can't look.
It's called denial.
Well, it's also very much more brainwashing.
Yeah.
Because, like somebody said the other night, was it you, with Jacob? Somebody was saying that, look, just using the word apostate will make people they suddenly go into a brainwashing mode where they won't listen to any. If the governing body says that person's an apostate, then suddenly your brain goes into this other space, and anything that it's told you about that person, supposedly true, they cannot hear it because of the fear factor that's been bred into them since they were born.
Yeah, and just so you know too, Quinn, we just did a interview, the one that's going to be right before the one we put out on you. She was NK Ultra and trafficked. It's a video. She didn't even come on the camera. We just did it. It was a blank screen. But you won't believe the horrific stuff that's happened to her. And this is the fourth person we've interviewed that's had this happen, and it's unbelievable. And you say, no, they're messed up, this and that. But the truth is, when you hear it enough times, you go, you have to come out of denial and say this stuff's happening.
Yeah, and and these techniques that they're using are quite incredible. Doing what they're doing, it's very deep, and it's very very long list of the way that they're doing what they're doing to mess us all up really, really badly. But it's sneaky, underhanded things that you'd have to learn in by taking some class, right? To do this, like an MK Ultra, Montauk Project kind of training to learn how to do this. So different people are bringing this out. And this Selena Vertoloma was interviewed by Jimmy Bell
Jimmy
the other
Bell.
day.
Yeah, I watched that yesterday. Yep.
And I thought that was really good. That's where I got that from. I just realized that when they say certain words, people go into a shutdown mode. They can't hear anymore about that particular thing because of that particular word. And it's that's got to be mind control.
Yeah, and there's still shows coming out. That show came out, your show, Vertoloma, and then there's another one coming on tonight on 6 screens. I don't know if you've ever been on there.
Yeah, what's that guy's name?
6 screens, Rick Fearon.
Yeah, I've watched it, but I've never been on there.
You maybe want to go on there. We could have you go on there, but they're doing another big show tonight about a victim who's was child abused, but he's now into legal stuff, and he's ripping them apart in the UK. And he said something big, very big, is ready to go down. So that's on tonight at 4:45 Central Time.
Is the guy?
Yeah, John Vinny.
John Vinny. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I get this feeling that like God's done with Watchtower. It's like what you guys are saying. It's not a coincidence. All these things are just being brought up to the surface like at the same time. And I think their time is done. I think it's starting to come down. The whole house of cards, I think, is going to fall down. But one thing I just want to say, I want to make sure I get this out before the show's over, is that I want to just make this clear that there are no such thing as apostates as far as the Jehovah's Witness direction. So like apostate is just something that the governing body does to slander people, exposing the fact that they're being caught in lies and hypocritical stuff. And I want to just explain this stuff because I know sometimes XJWs, they'll even call their channel the apostate channel, and they refer themselves as an apostate. But when we call ourselves an apostate, we're still letting them have a measure of control by accepting the slanderous name that they're giving us by saying we're apostates. But this is why I want to make it clear by definition that we're not apostates. Jesus said, and I'm going to quote it from their version because I'm not sure what the correct version say, but basically, one, he said, be on a watch for false prophets. So number one, why would Jesus tell us to be on a watch for false prophets if we're not allowed to be on a watch and look for signs? And then on top of that, if he said to be on a watch for false prophets, Well, what would be maybe a red flag or a sign that maybe we're dealing with a false prophet? How about an organization that's making false prophecies? So
No.
if you have an organization that's making false prophecies back 100 years, and Jesus is saying, be on the lookout for this. Well, one, how are we an apostate for being on the lookout and saying, hey, you guys have been making all these false prophecies since 1914. You keep changing prophecies. You keep making stuff up. You changing them so much that like they even have something on their website of like a clarifications of understanding. And there's a whole list of all the things they changed because the members can't even keep track of the new light. So number one, where Jesus told us to be on the watch for false prophets. So he's commanding us basically, if you hear something that's a false prophecy, be on the lookout for that. So that's one reason why we're not apostates. The second thing is that he then gave us a description on what they would look like. He said, hey, they're going to come to you in sheep's covering. Well, I'm sorry, but I have not seen any other organization dressed in sheep's covering with all this sheep propaganda as much as Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
Sheep, 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 sheep.
Yes, absolutely.
They even call their elders book the shepherd and flock book.
Yeah. And they
Right,
call
like-
it for nothing slaves too. You know, and
Yeah.
my understanding is that a previous translation of the word apostate meant a runaway slave.
Yeah.
And I'm looking it up now. It's not the same as one dictionary here, but it says now a person who renounces a religion or political belief. So, but before it was a runaway slave.
Mhm.
So, you know, they're calling you slaves. I mean, that if that's not a big sign right there, they call their people slaves. Holy
Yep.
cow.
And then like as far as the sheep thing is like when the elders go to visit someone who they're worried about, they call it a shepherding call. They don't call it a human call. We're going to see a human.
Yeah,
They
right.
literally talk like sheep.
Yeah.
So
Sheep-
who else is wearing exactly right? So who else is wearing sheep's covering like the Jehovah's Witnesses? They're the exact definition of like sheep's covering, sheep, sheep, sheep.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, hey, they're going to come to you in sheep's covering. But here's the big part. After he says they're going to come to you in sheep's covering, he says, but inside they're ravenous wolves.
Dead
Is
men
there any other better definition of being really ravenous wolves than during the Royal Australia Commission, where like children that were sexually abused by elders who they were told were appointed by God's Spirit don't say anything because they're going to make the organization look bad? Is there a better definition?
Can't see.
Is there a better definition of really being ravenous wolves inside than to be that like unloving and that like selfish and evil that like you're going to say, don't tell anyone about your sexual abuse because you're going to make us look bad?
Oh, I know.
So Jesus said, one, watch out for false prophets. Check number one, Jehovah's Witnesses have been making false prophecies. Two, they're going to be wearing sheep's covering. Nobody's wearing sheep's covering like Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's right.
And then they're really ravenous wolves inside. Well, that's exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses are. They love bomb you. They pretend on the outside, we love you so much. Try asking questions and get shunned. You're going to see what it means to be a ravenous wolf.
And
How they are.
then turn you against your own children and your own pets.
Yeah.
You know, by saying that they're not right. You
Yeah.
can't trust them because they're not right with
It's
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Me and Angela visited the last assembly
Mhm.
right here in
I
Nampa.
know.
And we walked in and we got in. Nobody was really watching us, I don't think. But we got in there and it was like this utopia, wasn't it? It was like perfection, right? It was everything was starting to right time, and all the brothers were walking down the aisles at the same time and counting, and it was all of this stuff. But when we talked to one of the elders, all he did was lie.
Oh,
It was a front. It was a whitewashed
thank you.
grave. I said, I was in the, well, first of all, he attacked me for having a Bible. He's like, what are you doing with a Bible? What are you doing with that antique? I said, antique? He goes, look around. And Angela says, Dan, everybody has tablets. They don't have Bibles. I said, no, everybody has Bibles. And I looked down the aisles and I took pictures. They were tablets all the way down. And I said, oh my God, things have changed. So the guy made fun of me for having that. And I said, well, I left, in the 80s, but you know what happened in the 1975. He goes, What happened? And I said, well, they predicted the end, and
He said he'd been
never
in
happened.
40 or 50 years.
He goes like this, never happened. What are you talking about? He goes, you must be from California, where there's kind of some recluse congregations. And I said, no. And then I told him about the generation prophecy. Never happened. What are you talking about? Nobody predicted the end. Overlapping generation, nothing happened. And then I asked him about
Just a few
I asked
changes,
him
he
about the
said.
jab. I even asked him about that. I said, do you guys all have to do that? And he said, well, the only ones who died were those who didn't take it. I mean, totally. But
It was
but the point I'm making, Quinn, is here's this utopian whitewashed grave that you like a monument, going, wow, it's perfection in here, and then here's this man lying and more lying and confused. He was fakely smiling at us and going, you got to be kidding me. Like, he's looking at me like, where'd you from? And I said, well, what do you think about just fellowshipping? That you got to go in the back of the hall for 2 to 10 years. Oh, where did you hear that? And I said, oh, so you don't know anything about somebody going in the back of the hall? And he goes, no. He says, I know a sister that's been out for years, and in 3 months, she's got all her privileges back. She's doing it. Was total lies, Quinn.
Well, and then you know what babies are, Anthony Morris said, they're enemies of Jehovah until they become basically baptized, right? And so all of a sudden, all the mothers are fearful of their brand newborn babies because they're enemies of Jehovah. That means they're demons. Get it?
But that's why. Go ahead.
And children, I mean, and not just children, but pets. Your pets, they're the thing that makes people have hope in life, and it's a man's best friend. And they try to destroy them.
Have an unusual relationship with your dog. When it wags its tail, it's glad to see you. It has no idea who you are.
It keeps you alive. Without your pets, a lot of people will die. So that they just, man, I'll tell you, it's evil.
It's
and
evil.
I think they're Illuminati.
And it's painted so pretty. That's what I wanted to say. A lot of these organizations are painted up so beautiful. They look so structured and so organized that you just throw out reason. You say, no, that it can't be. That's just too perfect, too clean. But it really isn't, because we've been in there and we know the game.
It's
and we
the
know
wolf in sheep's clothing.
it's the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Is. Anyway, Quinn, you've been awesome. There is something, after we get off camera here, there's something else I wouldn't mind seeing if you'd be interested in exploring with us. Another conversation entirely. But anyway.
Did you say everything you wanted to say, Quinn, pretty much?
Just one more thing I want to mention. When you mentioned how you went to the assembly and they all had tablets, this is what I believe. They want everything electronically because it's easier for them to then change things. It became too difficult when people would find the old books, and you can still find them online. So if they get everybody out of that and everything is digital, especially how a lot of witnesses, their publications are on the JW app. That's the worst thing, because on the JW app, you can have all those publications and you can update it, and it's changed by an update. And that's what they want, so they can kind of pretend they didn't say certain things. Because one thing I heard too with the 1975 thing, and maybe you can verify this, is that what I heard is that they did flat out say it during like conventions and stuff like that, but they were careful in their literature how they wrote it. So like a lot of times, and beyond 1975, what I think is that the conventions and assemblies is a way that they can put a lot of stuff out there that's not going to bite them back in the butt later. Because then if they have to change it or deny it, they can say, well, we never said that, But I heard that like during that 1975 time, I heard that governing body members actually said, 1970, like flat out said it. And now they're saying, oh, we never said that. And another thing that I wanted to mention that I caught them doing this recently was that they kept pushing that medical advice. And what happened was something called the VARS data came out. I think it was like in March 2022. And the VARS data is like this system of reported side effects. And when that data came out, there was like over 1,200 like side effects that came out. And these companies like Pfizer, they tried to do something saying, well, we're not going to release this until 75 years. And that got blocked by the court saying, no, you can't hold this to 75 years. You have to release it. So when they started releasing it in March, all these reported side effects started to come out. So this was before I woke up completely. So when that happened, I thought, okay, the governing body's going to have to retract what they're saying, because now this data is coming out saying like there could be some problems. So I waited for the next governing body update, and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to have to like backpedal or something. And what I noticed is the very next governing body update. So I believe this would have been now the April 2022 governing body update. And they didn't say the word, the jab. They didn't even mention it. Every other update since they created the governing body updates has been about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Every single one, pushing. Now, as soon as that virus data comes out, now suddenly they don't even say the word. And then they said like 2 weeks after that, we're going back to the hall. Like nothing never, suddenly we're going back to the hall now. Why are we suddenly going back to the hall? Because this information comes out. So then maybe like a couple months after that, there was a Watchtower study that came out and they were talking about the pandemic and they were talking about how, yep, follow the advice to, wear a mask and social distance. They named everything but taking the blank. Like they purposely left it out of that Watchtower.
Wow.
So then as I was on my way out the door and I was going back and forth with this elder, the one that tried to deny the trust fund. And one of the things that I mentioned too is how like, yeah, they're pushing us to blah, 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 take this. And this is an elder. He says to me, they never pushed us to take it. It's always a personal choice.
I know.
And I could see that's how the brainwashing works. So during the governing body updates and conventions and stuff like that, they were flat out saying, you need to do this. But they're careful in their literature, what they write down, because they know that can come back to bite them. So now they're kind of pretending through their literature, we never said take the blank, just like we never said it was going to end in 1975, but they did say that during the governing body updates to take it. And I noticed that's what they're doing. They're careful what they put in print, but then they use the conventions and assemblies to flat out say it, but now they can rewrite history when they have to change it.
I got to tell you something, Quinn. Well, we found out that they have, like, apparently anyway, told the people that because of the different problems that we're having in society right now, during the convention, stay out of the convention building until it's time, and then come in so that if there's any terrorist attack, this kind of thing. And so we witnessed that happening too. And another thing we noticed is that nobody, and I mean nobody, was recording or taking any pictures of any kind. Me and Dan were the only ones, and for some reason they allowed it, and I don't understand how that was. But me and Dan recorded their tablets, different things, but
Nobody
no
was,
one, no
you'd
one.
think at an assembly with everyone with the new technology would be taking pictures, doing selfies.
Yeah.
It was nobody. So I think they were doing it so not the apostates, but those visitors like us that were coming in would stand out.
Oh, that's true. But the other reason is because they don't want this recorded, because see, they're, like he just said, that what they say at the conventions, they get away with.
Oh, yeah.
And then they
good
say that we
point.
never said that,
You're
but then
right.
it's in writing. So
You're
if
right.
no one's allowed to record it, if you witness someone recording things, you're going to say, stop that. We're not allowed to be doing that. Are you, are you supposed to be in here? And then they would question you. So if they'd stand out like a sore thumb. So no one's allowed to record the conventions
Wow,
anymore.
that's a good point.
This is really good, Quinn.
Yeah,
Wow.
that just spawned that on.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was my point. So, she's. So I got a question, and we are really running over. But did you and your wife stay together?
No, so basically, once I started to question things, it was like she was turning against me, which I don't have nothing bad to say about her because she was raised as a witness. So I understand that indoctrination is much harder for her. And like, she was saying stuff was a lie, even when I'm like, I can show you on the IRS website, but like, she would not look. She started to get angry when I would question things. So I finally said, okay, we don't have to talk about religion anymore. But after I wrote my letter, I wrote my disassociation letter officially just this past June. And long story short, I work a night shift. I got to go to work after our meeting. But so I'm at work, and this is during a convention that this is the last week of July. She was at the 3-day convention, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm working Saturday night. I'm leaving at the convention. So I get a text message while I'm working, very cold. I moved out. My phone's going to be shut off for the next couple of days. Code is just code. And in all fairness, we did have conversations about separation and divorce, because when I could tell how toxic it was getting once I started questioning the religion. And I'm like, well, this is not going to work. How, like, you won't even look at what I'm showing you. So we've talked about it, but a lot of couples have conversations where maybe things are not working out. They talk about, well, should we separate? So we did have talks, but nothing was official. There was no like, we're divorcing or anything like that. So she just disappeared in the middle of the night. And this was just the last week of July, but what's really blindsiding about it is that like she did it during the convention. Like, so that right away says, how is this an organization driven by God? I know she didn't come up with this idea on her own. I can guarantee the elders probably told her, because I'm questioning things now. I think they told her that's what you have to do, because, it's funny how hypocritical they are. They're so against divorce, right, and separation. They even say that like they say in their publications that the only way you can separate, not even divorce, is if like they're not providing, and they mention like extreme physical abuse and spiritual endangerment. But when you say extreme physical abuse, who are the elders to make that call on what is extreme physical abuse? What's extreme physical abuse to one person may not be to another person. But they're saying, so even if a man is abusing his wife, they're still saying you can't separate unless we as an elder say that it's extreme. But if it's spiritual endangerment, get the heck out of there is what they say. Oh, he's questioning us. Okay, leave him in the middle of the night.
It used to
Don't
be
even tell him
that the only reason it was allowed was for because you're unfaithful. So
So-
that's interesting.
Well, what it is that I think, because they change their doctrine so much, but I think what they say is that you can only divorce if it's adultery. So even if you are doing the extreme, you still, unless they cheat, you can't divorce. But separation, they say, well, you can legally separate
Oh.
only if they're not providing for you, like you're not being fed, so you have to leave because your spouse is just not providing, or extreme physical abuse. So again, what does that mean? Like, who are they to decide what's extreme? Like, for example,
Right.
if my father smacked me, which he has, me personally, I'm not going to call that extreme physical abuse. But someone else is being smacked, yeah, that's abuse. Like, that could be extreme. Like, it's up to the person abused to decide for themselves what they're taking is extreme or not. It's not up for the elders to decide, well,
Right.
we view this as extreme, so you can leave, or you can't leave because it's not extreme enough.
So was that what happened to you? Or did your wife claim a severe abuse, or did you just separate, or did you divorce?
So she basically, I think, is just using a spiritual endangerment, because when she left, when she finally called me, that's what she said, that like, I'm disassociating on the basis of apostasy. That's what she said to me. And the way she started acting towards me, I'm like, why are you being so cold with me? And she's like, I'm leaving Jehovah. I'm like, well, what does that have to do with the fact we're still married and we got bills and stuff? Like, you can't just like leave like that. I didn't like no abuse or anything like that. Like, never. She's never been afraid of me. I've never put my hands on any woman, never in my life. And like, the night that she left, or the night before she left, we're in the same bed sleeping together still. Like, she's right. There was no affair, but it was based on apostasy, because
And that's
but-
another extreme. There's no extreme spiritual anything.
Yeah.
Now, just because you become an apostate, because you said to her, I won't discuss spiritual or religious things with you anymore. So there's no extreme there. But honestly, Quinn, me and Dan have seen this over and over again. Michael Moore, thank God you're doing so well, but Michael Moore, he didn't do well with this situation, same kind of thing. And he ended up committing suicide. They drove him to suicide. He was living in his van. So he got kicked out.
They told us right away, they took his kids. He was working 2 jobs, and they told his kids, those birds are going to pick your daddy's eyes out any day. They turned his wife against him, tried talking his wife into moving in with some elders. He went to the place, the Burger King, and threw the guy up against the wall and said, stay away from my family. He put up a restraining order. They would not let up. And then boom,
Yeah, she finally just came to his work and said, I'm divorcing you.
And that was it.
He went and shot himself within just probably minutes. They drove her to that. It just because, he was seeing some things wrong. And anyway, poor thing. And he went through a super hard time.
He didn't like the way they were questioning the sisters to bring in their bedroom stories. And he asked the brothers at an elders meeting, because he was an elder. He said, "Why are you asking the sister this over and over and over?"
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night. And he actually told them to take a break. He said, "Let's take a break." He said, "Stop it. Stop asking these questions. This is like, it's almost like
Abuse. It's
pornea,
abuse.
like, you know, it's like, you know,
And that's what started it.
and that's what started it. That was the beginning of his end.
He was just trying to say, you guys, this is not proper. This is
Mm-hmm.
not godly. And it's not. You know, you hear the stories of the things that they ask in those meetings late at night. Yeah. In those, what do they call those meetings? I forgot.
Elder meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's horrendously abusive. And apparently they have a book that tells them to do it in that way. So see, that's part of the mind control.
Mm-hmm.
And
The shame.
yeah.
They want to shame you.
Yeah. Yeah. Until you will be sickened and
Mm-hmm.
go into deep depression because you're so evil, you're so dirty. So they make you feel so dirty. So anyway, it's not of God. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait until they are stopped on that point alone. I do not like those elder meetings. I think they should be criminal. They should be prosecuted for that. Every one of those people that did that. So he lost his marriage because he stood up against it. And then also the sexual things that he knew that were going on in the congregation. He was trying to begin the process of bringing that out after
Pedophilia.
that all happened, all the pedophilia. And anyway, they just ruined him quickly. He left it only a few months and he was dead. So yeah, it's bad. You're doing very well compared to most. This is just how they do it. They do it very quickly. Matter of fact, it seemed that they wanted to be rid of him and they were already going to get her into another man's home and have her married off immediately. And it was very obvious that they intended to take her, the wife.
Yeah.
And they were very much in love. Like
Well,
you
they told
said.
me that when my wife left. I just came home and my house was packed like yours, Quinn. My kids were gone. And I walked in, I thought somebody broke in. Like you said, I was asleep with my wife in the bed. I went to work, they packed up and they were all gone. And I couldn't believe it. And what was I going to say about
Two
that?
state lines gone. They took them 2 state lines over.
Yeah.
And it was quite shocking. It was
Oh, yeah. What I was going to say was the elders came to my door and I said, you know, something. And they go, "Man, Dan, you're going to be married in another year, man. Forget her. She's gone." And I'm like, "Forget her. I got 2 little kids." They're like, "Yeah, man, there's all these hot sisters in the hall. Don't worry about it, man. You're going to be taken care of." And I'm like, "I got a family." They have no consciousness about family, they have no heart, you know, toward that. I have babies that want a dad, you know, anyway.
Yeah. Well, Quinn,
I get to say one thing
Yeah.
real quick, just to comment on what we were saying, Angela, about when you said I was doing well. I just want to give advice on how at least I was able to stay good.
Yeah.
Is that I cut off all of my friends, all my network. And when I was starting to wake up is when I started to realize, man, I never should have cut these people off because they were my real friends, not friends because they were told these are your new friends now. And I was afraid because I was thinking like, they're not going to want nothing to do with me. The way I just cut them off for this religion. But anyway, so I created a Facebook after like my wife left and I said, I'm going to just try to find my old contacts back. And I was afraid to reach out to some of these people. But to my surprise, almost all of them opened me back with open arms. And they said they were just worried because they're like, "Oh yeah, you went out for the Jehovah's Witnesses. We're just glad you're still alive and okay." And I think that the witnesses want you to feel like you can't go back. Like they want to make you feel like once they cut you off, you have nothing. So I just want to say for anyone that's had people who they cut off, the tendency is to think they're not going to want anything to do with you, but you'd be surprised. Just try it out. Try to get a hold of everybody who you cut off, and even coworkers who maybe try to hang out with you and you push them away because you're bad association. Just try to start those connections anyway. And so that's what's kind of helped for me. I was able to rebuild some of my friendships back. And now I'm trying to more so get to know my coworkers and things of that nature.
And Quinn, and don't forget that because of your brainwashing, when you first tried it, you felt that, oh my gosh, they were not accepting you back because they were so.
Oh yeah.
So
I was afraid.
Yeah, and you were afraid. You're probably putting off that vibe, if you will, that you were going to be rejected, and they picked up on it, and you felt as if they were not accepting you. But eventually, they did. So didn't give up, and that's the important part. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses who are born in, they don't have anywhere to go. Just for that, guys, I'm just asking you to keep praying because many people are beginning to say that there must be and there will be, trust me, facilities built for housing these people that have nowhere to go. And there are many. So anyway, oh, that breaks my heart too.
Yeah.
It's so evil. But anyway, just for the record, there are rescue missions all around the United States. So there's the ones I know of, okay? There's the Union Rescue Mission, that's in California. There's the Boston Rescue Mission, Denver Rescue Mission, Boise Rescue Mission. And it goes like, you see the point. So I trust that particular, there's many that are not safe. Apparently, I'm finding out these homeless places, but that one I do. I donate to all of those I just mentioned. And I love them. I know that they're good, solid people. I get their newsletters.
Help people get on their feet.
Yep, I've worked in the Denver Rescue Mission and the Boise Rescue Mission. And I absolutely know that they are good to the core. And so I want to just recommend that as a place to go because they really help, especially the women and the children. And they get you set up. They give you housing, food. They help you get a job. They get you clothes. They teach you how to live. They get classes. They're strict, but no drugs, no alcohol. But they're very good. And a God-run organization. So I would recommend that if you don't have anywhere else to go. And other than that, on Dan and I's website, prodigaljourneys.com, and we've got a whole list of resources on the resource page, and I'm going to be updating that again soon. But I'm always looking for resources for different people, and if you need some resources, go there, take a look. If you don't find anything, let us know, and I can work on the internet and find places in your area. I've done that for different people, and there's another rescue mission.
Just a resource gal.
Yeah, I've been known as a resource person. I really believe in resources because when you get out, especially here, you need things like bus tokens and you need a car. We were asked to help a lady. She needs a car. There's different things needed. And so we're going to have to start funds, guys. We're going to have to start buildings as soon as we can get this done and start getting these people some help because it's definitely needed. But God cares, he does, and this is being dealt with. But go there first for now until we can get something for Jehovah's Witnesses specifically. So anyway, I'll let you know more as I know more later on what are resources for Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay.
And could you guys also put the link to my YouTube channel?
Yeah. What is
Sure.
what is
What is
it?
your YouTube channel?
It's Jehovah's Witness Brainwashing Methods.
Is that spelled out?
Actually, let me just
Oh, we just took you off of being on the host.
oh, okay, don't worry about it. I was gonna pull it up, but yeah,
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness Brainwashing Methods, and it has a black and white picture of Raymond Shaw from the movie Manchurian Candidate, who was brainwashed. So that's the picture on it.
Okay. All right, good. That sounds really great. And Dan's got a little book that's got a similar name, oddly.
Yeah.
Secret brainwashing techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses. Got a guy hanging.
Yeah, and then the bottom of it says 5 steps to escaping the web of JW indoctrination.
But
I want to read that book. I want to get a copy of that.
It's digital on Amazon for $2.99.
but
Cool.
well, Quinn, we thank you.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate you. You're really informed. I just want to say, I'm amazed at how fast somebody can come out and get on their feet. I know so many witnesses that it's taken 20, 30 years, don't you think?
Yeah, Dan.
And you hit the ground running.
Well, yeah.
You came out and you said, I'm not letting this be the last chapter of my life. And you went deep. You made sure that you knew what you knew. You didn't take anybody's word for it, but you started to think. And look what you've done, and look what you've uncovered, and look at the truth you can bring to help other people get free.
It's
I mean,
awesome,
I'm even a little
Quinn.
more free after this interview
Oh, yeah, and
because go
and the
ahead.
whole thing with Jacob was incredible, Quinn. I mean,
Yeah,
you've really done your
people look
work.
at that interview. I want to tell you, if you're still
Oh.
watching us, look at that video with Quinn and Jacob,
Jacob.
and look at the research.
How do you get Jacob's channel?
Well, I think you
guys?
got it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel too. So
Good,
if anyone
good.
goes to my channel, it'll be the first video there. The first
very
one
good.
at the very bottom. Yeah, the first video posted.
You'll see the work
And-
Quinn's done and how deep he's went. He didn't just stop here. It's
Yeah, and let me just say this, guys. This is what my observation, as y'all, most of you know, I was with Worldwide Church of God, Herbert W. Armstrong, Garner Tanner Armstrong. That was the cult I grew up in. Jehovah's Witness, Jewish combined. Okay, but what my observation here is that Quinn was not indoctrinated as a young babe from the time that he was born. And they saw that he was not mind controlled up to the point of probably his 6th year. And so he had his own mind. And they did not like that, because when he saw things that were not making sense, he questioned it. So they looked at him like, you're a threat. You're a threat to our organization. You're a threat to the mind controlling that we have meticulously been doing with our members. And you are not fitting in the mold, dude. And you're going to be targeted. And probably also too, unfortunately, because, they are prejudiced. And back in the day, they were very prejudiced.
When I was in, they were prejudiced.
Oh,
They didn't
man.
say they were, but I had people tell me, don't go out in service with a black brother. We don't use black brothers in this hall. It was in East Texas. And no, they're nuts. They're crazy. We don't use them for anything in here. And
Yeah, so they're secretive about it now.
I'd even go out in service with one, and the brother goes, "You're going out with me, remember?" And I go, "Oh," and they said it was dangerous, but then they would make fun of the blacks or talk black jokes when we were in
yeah.
service. And
Yeah, so
I went home crying one day. I went to the elders and I said, "My God, I said black jokes out in service." And the elder looks at me and goes, "Have you lost your mind?"
can you believe this?
I mean, I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. I said, we can't talk like this about brothers, about black brothers. And it was crazy. There was prejudice, and a
Yes.
Mexican brother put me on reproof
And
because he didn't like white people. And I went to another congregation and I raised my hand, and they said, we can't count on you because Brother Trujillo put you on a reproof. I said, I'm not a reproof. I opened and closed his meetings and I read. I was his only guy during so I went back to a 7-Eleven and met him, and he goes, "You were on reproof, Brother Clark." And I went, "Whoa."
he was an Hispanic brother. And
So I've been a product of it too.
he was also what do they call that? Done the same too. So anyway, you guys, this is just crazy, but this is the way it is, and we're blessed to be shown the way out. And for the record, Dan and I love all people, tribes, tongues,
Yeah.
nations, and religions, for the most part, because we understand that they're doing the best they can based on the way they
Yeah.
were raised, based on, God knew that when he formed them in the womb, that they're going to be born a Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. And how could they be anything else? Why do we expect that? Why do we think that God doesn't love them? So we love everybody. So anyway,
Yes.
that's our take on it. We feel that we should all have that attitude. So,
And just one quick, I got to get going too, but I just have to comment this one thing you're saying, Angela, about like the targeting is that some people who I've spoken to, they believe that I might have got targeted through the Jehovah's Witnesses for some reason. And
oh,
at first I'm like, well, no, because I was getting harassed before I started to question things. But then someone brought to my attention that like with the surveillance and stuff like that when I started researching conspiracies, like even that could have got me flagged, where maybe someone within that network with Jehovah's Witnesses could have said, "Hey, one of your Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going down a road they shouldn't be going down." So I don't know, like it's possible.
yeah.
And I have this gut feeling that they do have something to do with that.
Oh, they do.
I'm just
feel
not
very
sure. Yeah.
No, I feel very sure that they are.
It's a good point. It's like
Yeah.
military, they got to break you first, right? That's why
Yeah.
they put you through boot camp, to make you to where you just
Yeah.
follow orders. And like Angela said, you might not have been, they might have saw a little bit of stubbornness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you know the stories that me and Dan know, oh my
Oh, yeah.
gosh, they have got these organizations, these groups that do this thing. It's a mind control is what it really is, and it's intimidation, and it's very much harassing. And we've heard these stories, Quinn. You're not the only one.
Quinn,
Anyway.
Yes, and keep up the good work. You're doing amazing. You're probably setting thousands of people free. You don't even know it. You won't even know it. You'll just hear stuff like you said about us. People watched your video. We've gotten calls from all over the world.
Hey,
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. It feels good when
It
somebody said, "I
does.
listened to your video and that was it for me." I mean,
hey, Quinn, listen to our video that we just did, put it out yesterday with
Yep.
Lisa. This would
Okay.
be good for you. You need to hear the whole thing to the end, okay?
and we have some other
Oh,
channels
definitely.
for you to go
Yeah.
on. We'll be
Yeah.
sending you
Mhm.
and giving you invites to other places with bigger audiences and things too. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We
Thank
love
you.
Quinn. You're a good
Thank
guy.
you.
And I just want to say I love you guys too, and you guys have an amazing show. Like you're helping just I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
No, thank you.
It's awesome, and thank you for having me on your
Thank
show.
you, Roy.
Thank you for having
you.
courage to do what you did and to follow truth.
Amen.
And you've been set free, and you're going to set people free
Amen.
because you're free.
Yes, you are awesome. Okay. We
Yeah.
love you. Have a good, safe trip.
All right.
Okay, and did you still have to ask me something offline?
Oh, yes, offline,
Okay,
since we get
okay.
off here.
I know you got to go to work, but we'll
All
do it
right.
right now.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
Okay, end meeting.